Welcome back to Retro ReWire. My name is JJ. Here we are at the Hard Up in Koga-Ueno in Mie Prefecture. Before we get underway, Retro ReWire game tours. I'll leave a link in the description. I'm on Facebook as well as Instagram, retro_rewire, and I post a lot of exclusive content here. So definitely follow me there if you don't want to miss a beat. And here we are at the showcase. Let's see what kind of retro wonders that they have here, and if it's worth it coming out here. Now, for me, it's always worth it because, a lot of these places, I want to say like up to 60, maybe even 75% of the stock is going to be what you would expect to see. But it's that remaining 25% that can make all the difference. But here we are, like these Tamagotchi little keychain electronic things. I remember these were kind of popular back in the States in the late 90s. I never tried one myself, but I do remember seeing them like at Target, Shopko, Walmart, all those kinds of stores, and they were a little bit popular. Here we have a PSP 1000. What is this, like a champagne color? That's definitely a beauty there, as I can't really recall if I've ever seen that before, but always nice to see a new color. We have this 3DS for 9,900 yen, which is less expensive than the one without the box here in the white for 11,000. Now you definitely want to have your translator app handy because the little tags have notes. And sometimes, there are scratches, missing accessories, and that's why there's a difference in price. But here we are, we got some PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Switch games in the case. And I'm pretty sure like these newer platforms or like the current gen platforms are going to be they're bigger, heavy movers as opposed to like this 360 title of Conan, which I actually have, which is actually pretty cool. But you definitely want the North American one because the Japanese one is censored, which is a shame. But here we have Heavy Metal Geomatrix, which is very similar to the Spawn game, which both are published by Capcom. We got some Mortal Kombat action there. We got Outrun for 7,150 yen. What do we have in the back? We have Bastard for the Super Famicom. And this Eternal Blue for the Game Boy Advance. Not really familiar with that one, but the one in the back, which is Rock and Roll Racing for 4,400 yen, is an awesome racer, as well as this Sonic Racing, which is one that I definitely would love to add to my collection, but it's not really, I guess it's not really a priority, at least when I was out here. But sooner or later, perhaps next year, definitely going to add that one. And then Vampire Resurrection, 16,500 yen. I hope that thing is sealed because that's definitely a pricey one. And then 13,200 for this Saturn title, which I'm not really familiar with that one. At least I don't think I've seen it before. But I want to say on the whole, I was a little bit disappointed with the showcase. Now, I say that because I find myself, at least in my personal collecting, that I'm having more success online or going to like the more expensive, Super Potato, Mandarake type of shops, because they're just going to have kind of the things that I'm more focused on at the moment, which for me personally, it's going to be like PC Engine, AES, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much my main focus at the time. But my collecting is in moods, and that's the mood that I'm feeling at the moment. But anyhow, let's make our way here. We got some more stuff hanging off to the side. On the other side, we got some Game Boy Advance, some more Vita. There's even a little bit of Wonder Swan. And then here we are. I guess we'll start with the old software here, and then we will make our way into the hardware. And in the second half, we will be hitting up a Furuichi store. But this price, 3,300 yen for the 3D control pad, is not bad. Then we have this Dragon Ball Z for the Game Boy. I was totally tempted. I really wanted to get this, but you know what? I would have bought it just for the cover. It would have sat on the shelf. I probably would have never played it, so that one went right back on the peg hook. Which, it's a bummer, but I could just look at the video and appreciate its cover there. And then here we are with our Game Boy Advance titles, with this Wario Land one being the more interesting one, coming in at 4,000 yen before sales tax. And that's what you would expect at a place like Hard Off for this game. And then here we have this Jellicoe RPG, which I've seen before, and I do like the shape of that box. And then we have, what is this? Xanadu, Fast Xanadu, something like that. Volume 2 by Hudson Soft for the old Famicom, Yu Yu Hakusho for the Game Boy. And then more Switch, PlayStation 4, PS5, PS3. Now, that's one thing that they really had going for at this location, which is going to be the amount of stock that they had, at least for the software. We have a Rockman X, missing the manual, 3,300 yen. But anyhow, guys, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a blitz here. So enjoy this next segment. All right, y'all, so let's take a look at a few GameCube games. And from what you guys saw in that little montage, I did pick up Fatal Fury Wild Ambition, as it's a game that I've been looking for quite some time because of that Obi card. And then here we have Biohazard Zero for 1,000 yen before sales tax. And I want to say a lot of those GameCube games, I felt personally, were just a tad bit overpriced, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Here we have Fear 3 for the PS3 North American version, as is this Apache Air Assault, which I'm kind of curious about that game. It seems like it could be a fun one. But here we are with our PlayStation Vita games, and I don't know what it is, but I'm always pulling out this Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified, 500 yen, which isn't too bad of a price, although it doesn't have English language options, which is a little bit of a bummer. Here we have Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball 3. And then some more PlayStation Vita and PSP titles, quite a bit actually, and not a bad selection by any means. In fact, they had some more North American games, which were Battlefront and Star Wars The Force Unleashed, which I always like seeing these North American titles, as I definitely, if they're ones that call my attention, definitely going to pick those up. But here we have Super Speed Racing. Now, I've seen this one before, like a Formula 1 arcade racer, and that's definitely one that I would like to try. Sakura Wars 2. And then we have Namco Museum Volume 1. And then Metal Slug for 1,000 yen before sales tax, which isn't too bad of a price. And then Strikers 1945 Part 2. Anyhow, let's go on to the hardware. So here we go. We got this NEC PC 6001 and then a few Sega Saturns. Always nice to see the Saturn. Although some of those, at least the one that's 5,000 yen, is definitely sun faded or discolored. And then 11,000 for this PC Engine. Now, it does include additional things as well as a warranty, which I believe it was just missing the controller, which is definitely a shame. And then we have that Twin Family for 16,500 yen. They have 4 Sega Dreamcasts, and it looks like the least expensive is coming in at 6,600 yen, and that could be just because it's missing a cable. But a lot of this stuff, you know, it is going to have warranties, which I guess if you're coming into Japan, it doesn't really make a difference because the warranty is only valid in Japan. But 6,000 for a Mega Drive, that's actually not too bad. Especially those, you know, they do include additional stuff, and they had so many disc systems. And down in the bottom you can see that they have a few limited edition games. 7,700 yen for this top loader. It includes the AV cable and I believe the power cord and perhaps one controller, which that price, you know, that's not actually too bad. And then here we have all the disc systems. Now all of these are working. They do have warranties, so most likely the belts got replaced, which is pretty cool. And then back to the old back to the Twin Famicom. And this one, look how clean it is. That's actually not too bad. And what do we have here? We got the 8BitDo SN30 Pro for 3,300 yen. which I don't know, how is that favorable getting it new from Amazon? 6,600 yen for the Wii U. This is going to be I believe the 32 gig. Yep, the 32 gig model. And that box is fairly clean. I mean, 6,000, what is that like? 6,600 yen, what is that, like 50 some bucks? Which isn't too bad of a deal. And then the Super Famicoms, you know, some of these are retaining their original color, which is always nice to see. And a few of them are AV modded. Look at that. We have the AV, the composite cable leads there. So that's definitely a plus. And I believe they also do that at Retro Game Camp in Akihabara, but they're definitely going to be a bit more expensive there. But then again, you know, it's a lot more convenient to go to Akihabara than way out here. But here we have a Super Slim. This is going to be the red model, which is pretty cool looking, pretty sleek, for 16,500 yen. I have one of these Super Slims back in the States, but I just have the traditional piano black version. And then all sorts of PS4s. And then what's the Pro coming in at? 20,900 yen. I feel that that's reasonable, especially getting it in the box. And then here we have a few Xboxes. I believe that's the 1S. And then here we are with all these accessories. Look at this one. I haven't seen this one before. The battery charger for the PSP. 2750. So if you have two batteries, you could have one charging and the other one in the little handheld. Let's go. And then just all sorts of knickknacks. In fact, a lot of this stuff was reminding me of the junk section, but definitely worth looking through this because you just never know what you will find. As a matter of fact, look at this little RF thing for the, what is this, for the Famicom? So if you're a collector, that's something that's just another thing to collect, and coming in at 3,000 yen. But let's go ahead and let's head into the junk section proper. And as we get our little sweeping shot here, you can see that it's looking pretty healthy. And then down below, we got a VR headset with, now a lot of the games here were 100 yen. And if you really dig deep in there, you know, you are going to find some classic and solid titles like this Fighter's Mega Mix for the Sega Saturn, and with the Obi card. So that's not too bad. And then we got some 1080 snowboarding for the N64, but that one is coming in at 1,000 yen. So I feel that's a little bit higher for the, you know, the junk section. Here we have the flight stick or the mission stick for the Sega Saturn. Now I almost bought this, and I did open that up, and it was actually fairly clean, still had the original color, but I decided against it because it's not something that I'm really going to use. You know, maybe try out Panzer Dragoon for the novelty, and then it's just going to take up shelf space. Precious shelf space, believe me. We don't have the luxury of space out here in Japan. But here we have some racing wheels, which I do have, and definitely worth it for the Sega Saturn as well as the PlayStation. Speaking of PlayStation, we got this PSX, 8,800 yen with sales tax, and I wonder what kind of issues that it has. But 4,000 here for the Mega Drive, and then we have the old GameCube for 3,500 yen. So not a bad selection of hardware here. But then again, you know, I'll leave pricing up to you. Here we have a VMU for 500 yen, missing the little cap, and a little bit discolored. Here we have the Hudson controller for 1,000 yen. Now I did pick this bad boy up. That was definitely worth it. And then here we have a standard Famicom controller, which is actually fairly clean. The little gold plating on that other one was pretty solid and clean. I also picked up a Konami wireless controller on a different day that I had come here. I came here across like 2 or 3 days just because I was out here for work and it was a little bit boring, so might as well hit up the hard off. But that Konami, which I did post it on my Instagram, so that was definitely a very cool pickup. And just all sorts of controllers. Look at this. And I'm not sure what this is. The PS Exterminator. I wonder if it's like a little cheat code. We got a jumper pack here, and a Sega Dreamcast controller coming in at 1,500 yen before sales tax. And then we have the ASCII grip, and I believe this one could be for the Super Famicom, which would be very cool. And then here we have the junk showcase. Let's see what kind of cool things we find in here. Now these PSPs looking pretty mean, especially that one for 3,300 yen. And typically, you know, I think the last PSP I bought was a silver one, and I got it for 1,000 yen because the discs weren't loading up. But I just hit the switch, and then all of a sudden, the little switch that triggers the loading, and that thing is running like a dream. But here we have the Hello Kitty Game Boy Advance for 8,800 yen. Now the screen is definitely has quite a bit of marks, but if you're into that limited edition stuff, that doesn't seem like too bad of a deal. Here we have a pink one, a pink PSP. What is this? A 1000 model. That thing is actually pretty mean looking. And then in the back, we have an OLED Vita for 7,700 yen with the box, although the box was a little bit mashed. But anyhow, that's going to be it for the hard off. So let's go ahead and switch locations. Here we are at the Furuichi Ninja City. Now, Koga-Ueno has all sorts of like ninja stuff riddled throughout the town. You know, that's kind of like their mascot, their theme, what they're known for. And it's definitely cool to see that kind of stuff. Now, at this Furuichi, they definitely don't have like the hardware or the retro selection. But if you're into like modern gaming, or, you know, current gen gaming, or a few like PS4, PS3 and newer, this should be on your radar, because Furuichi has some pretty good prices, like this Batsugan, which is slightly less expensive than what you would find on Amazon Japan. So if you're out here, definitely hit them up. And they're found all over throughout Japan. In fact, they're a competitor, an up-and-coming competitor to Book Off. But Furuichi. And I have covered them before at the Hanyu Eon Mall, which they did have a pretty good selection of retro games. But we have Ray's Arcade Chronology. Now this one includes Ray Force, which I believe the North American version only includes Ray Storm and Ray Crisis. And also, here's another thing. If you like picking up like all these pamphlets, the little posters, the little brochures on new releases, Furuichi is definitely the place to come, as we will see more of these. You know, these things could be collectible, you know, I guess to the right person. And they definitely have quite a bit of stuff on hand. But here we have our PS5 titles. And some of this stuff is pretty good. You know, if you get it used, you might be saving a little bit of money there. I know when I get my PS5 Slim, which is going to happen very, very soon, Demon Souls is going to be the first thing that I buy. Although I think the Japanese version one doesn't have English language support, which is a shame, but whatever. And then what do we have here? Some Ring Fits, some Switch action, all sorts of Switch stuff, which we'll have we'll have a closer look at some of the Switch stuff. But here we're just kind of cruising, just kind of seeing the scope of the stock that they have, which I want to say this store was fairly large, and like the gaming section definitely took up a quarter of their floor space. What do we have here? Some Pokemon games. And then let's go to the back. Now, out in the back, they had all the PlayStation 5 hardware, but they were promoting FC24. I believe EA lost the FIFA branding, but that's not really going to hurt them. Here we have a disc edition, a PS5 disc edition for 46,500 yen. Now, mind you, this footage I recorded this before the release of the PS5 Slim, so perhaps these have seen a small price drop. And a lot of these do have discounts for various reasons. And sometimes it's just because the box is a little bit damaged. But here, let's see what their top 10 is like, or their top 8. We got Elden Ring should have been number 1, but let's see what it is. Have your guess. Boom, Final Fantasy 16, the number 1. And you know, I haven't heard too much about Final Fantasy 16, but I'm sure it definitely has its following. But Demon Souls, 3,780 yen. Not too bad of a price there. And then let's check out their handheld offerings. Here we have a 2DS LL or an XL for 17,800 yen with the 500 yen discount. As a matter of fact, a lot of this stuff had a discount. And this 2DS, this plain old 2DS, definitely has a cool two-tone color scheme. I definitely do like that color. It pops, you know what I'm saying? But let's see, what's the price? 14,000 there. And then here we have a 3DS XL for 17,800 yen with the 2,000 yen discount. 500 there for that 2DS. 3,400 for that 3DS. I believe that's an XL. So that's a hefty discount. And then the Amiibos. Now Amiibos, they're pretty much going to be selling it at, you know, MSRP, which is 1,800 yen before sales tax. And they had quite a bit of a selection here. And sometimes, you know, coming out to these smaller towns, maybe you could find an Amiibo that would otherwise be more expensive, like in Akihabara or online. I'm not really familiar with amiibos. I do have I think I have about like 4 or 5 myself, but I think I'm good with the amiibo collection now. We got that Pikachu one, which is kind of cool looking. And then some Splatoon action. And then all sorts of accessories for the Switch, the PlayStation, just kind of chilling here on the wall. Look at that. We got a Pikmin case, even Doraemon, Splatoon, Zelda, all sorts of options, even a couple game card cases, which some of them are kind of tempting, but at the end of the day, I don't really need it. But anyhow, let's go ahead and check out some more Switch action. I'm telling you, their Switch selection, their PlayStation 4 or 5 selection is definitely huge. And in this respect, the Hard Off, which was just pretty much across the street, a little bit down the ways, really can't touch this place in that regard. But 2,480 for Astral Chain, which I wonder, that came kind of, they were hyping it up and then it just went kind of under the radar. And then here we have the top 10 for the Switch, with Smash Bros being number 1, Mario Kart 8 number 2, and then Tears of the Kingdom number 3. And then all sorts of hardware, just hardware everywhere. Let's see, 22,800 yen. But I don't believe those are the OLED models. And then look at that, more brochures, more Nintendo magazines. They just had stacks of these things. They couldn't get rid of them, which I did grab one for myself. And I actually have a few of them. But look at all that. And actually some of this stuff sometimes is fitting to be, like in a frame, put it up in the game room. But anyhow, here we have like the more retro offerings. And like I said, let's take a look. But I wasn't really super impressed with the retro stuff. But the PlayStation Vita, now actually, with the exception of the Vita, these are actually not too bad. I want to say they're competitive with the pricing, especially after you apply the discount. Look at that. We got the OLED model coming in at 10,800 yen on top, and then you get an additional 600 yen discount. Now, I believe in a place like this, they don't have like the tax-free, but I could be wrong. Here we have a Carnival blue color, 17,800 yen, 1,000 yen off, which I believe the PSPs were definitely a bit overpriced. I feel like in Akihabara, but they do come with the box. In fact, as a matter of fact, I've been seeing a lot more PSPs just kind of like this one here without the box. So maybe maybe getting them complete in box. We're seeing a rise in price for those. But look at the PSP selection. That's pretty healthy looking. We got some PS2 titles, and we got some Dreamcast action here. I'm just gonna speed up the footage, but this is kind of telling too with like the Dreamcast. If you're after Dreamcast, I highly recommend you stick to the more traditional game shop, like your Super Potato, your Mandarake, Meikoya, just because they're just going to have a larger selection. And here, if you're making your way out here, it could be really hit and miss. And it's definitely like a wild card. It's definitely a gamble. But, that's just the way it goes with the Dreamcast. A lot of it has been picked over. We even have a original Xbox, Panzer Dragoon Orta, and that is a very, very solid title at that. And here we have an Xbox 360 for 12,709 yen, which is kind of a weird price. But now the Sega Saturn next to it, I felt this was a really good deal. Now, if you see here, it's coming in at 6,980 yen, but it has a 1,500 yen discount because it's missing the audio video cable, the AV cable. And then we got their Super Famicom offerings here. I kind of don't like when they do this, like putting them in the little cases. But that's more because it's a little bit more difficult to film. But anyhow, I guess not too bad of a selection there. And then here we have like this metallic rose Game Boy Advance for 10,000 and some change there, but you do get 1,000 yen off. We got some Popeye action, or what was that? Kind of missed it there, but we got some Hamtaro action here. One of them being a little bit sun faded, which is a shame. It's always a shame when the sun faded discoloration sets in. I wonder if like smoking accelerates that or causes that. I know it definitely gives it a stinky smell, but here we have our Game Boy games, which I've been building up my Game Boy collection, but I'm being crazy and I'm just trying to get everything complete in box at the moment, which kind of ups the stakes and it makes it a little bit more interesting. But definitely when you're here, have your list, be patient, don't get too game crazy. And look at the condition of this Super Mario 64. It's fairly clean. And I guess, for that condition, 3,400 yen might be not too bad. 12,000 yen and some change for Shadows of the Empire, which is to be expected. And then here we have their small GameCube selection. And we got Super Mario Sunshine, which I recently picked up for 400 yen. And that's definitely going to be featured in a video, so stay tuned for that. We got some Mario Baseball. And what do we have here? A GameCube controller. For 2,000 yen, that's not too bad of a price. And the silver one, the silver one's definitely not a bad color. We got some N6. Now this one for the PS2. Look at this bad boy. 100 yen off. And translucent yellow. That thing was cool. But here we have their showcase. We got, what do we have here? We got a Mega Drive. Now, after sales tax, it's coming in at 6,000 and some change, which is kind of in line with what we saw across the street at the Hard Off. So nothing too special there. And what do we have here? We got a VR headset. We got an interesting lime green DSi, and then a 9,000 PS2 in the red, 24,800 yen, and you don't even get the red controller. But that's definitely one of the pricier PS2s, that 9,000 red model. Which the PS2 Slim, the 90,000 series is definitely, at least for me, that's definitely the way to go. We got some PS3 Slims, which they also had a Super Slim in red. Here we have one in the black for 10,000, and then a Slim in red for 13,800 yen with the 1,000 yen discount. And that thing is very, very sleek, especially in that red color. And then we have their old junk section. Now the junk section, well, one thing about this store, I kind of like how there's a little bit of like disorderly chaos to it, because if you really hunt, sometimes like if you're just digging through this stuff, sometimes it yields a lot of great stuff. Although, and in this specific occasion, that really doesn't apply. In fact, I don't think I picked up anything at this specific location, but there were some temptations like this clone system, this Retrobit Generations. Now, the newer iteration, Retrobit Generations 4, and I believe, Retrobit's Generation 4 has R-Type Leo, and that's definitely a game that I would love to have. But I hear the emulate. Now, this is the one in question, and the emulation I hear is really bad on it, so that's why I have not picked this up. But IREM, they're releasing their games on the Switch and the PS4. They have Volume 1, which includes X Multiply and Image Fight. So I'm hoping they have an R-Type collection that includes Part 1, 2, 3, and Leo. And here we have a Gun-Con for 300 yen in the box. That's not actually too bad of a price. In fact, the only thing that it's missing is the little AV adapter for the PlayStation, but that's not actually too bad of a price at all. We have some Konga action. The PSPs, again, as I mentioned before, I feel that they're a little bit overpriced. Look at that. That's going to be 10,000 yen. And in the junk section, what's going on? Here we have a DS. It's a beautiful color, but this thing has certainly seen better days. And it's coming in at 2,000 yen. Something like this should be like 500 yen, 100 yen. But that could make for an interesting modding project. And then here we have like this Taito, or this Hori funky controller. I wonder what game this is for. But definitely, I almost picked this up. I believe it was like 200 yen. And that was definitely an interesting little controller there, as I don't think I've seen that one before. But yeah, just all sorts of cables, knickknacks. I didn't really dig too deep in there, but sometimes it could yield some stuff. And they also had quite a bit of figures, toys, and everything that comes with that. We have Venom, we have Carnage. Definitely love both of those characters. In fact, I had another Venom too. Definitely would like to add one of these Venoms to my collection, get it displayed. But a lot of cool stuff in here, especially they also had some Dragon Ball. We'll definitely take a look at a few of the figures here. But if you're a hardcore figure hunter, this could also be a worthy place to come, because you might find some good deals. As a matter of fact, I was in Akihabara yesterday, and I don't really pay too much attention to like the figures, but I was out on a tour, and I was looking at the figures and I'm like, my goodness, some of the stuff that I've seen in Akihabara is definitely way higher priced, and some of the prices here are actually not too bad. Here we have the Ginyu Force. We have old Chase for 8,000. Now this is part of the Ichiban Kuji prize figures, which seem to be of pretty good quality, at least to me. But again, don't take my word for it. I'm not like a super hardcore collector. I do have a few figures myself, but I'm definitely new to this world. But you know, like a lot of One Piece, Dragon Ball. I'm definitely into the Dragon Ball stuff, which is cliche, I know, but whatever. Look at 7,980, and I saw that same figure in Akihabara, and they were selling it for 15,000. And then here we have some hardcore Cell. We got some more Ginyu Force, but definitely a lot of cool stuff. A lot of temptations. So you be careful if you're out on vacation here. Make sure you have room in that suitcase, because it would be a shame that you would have to throw away the beautiful boxes. And if you check in the back, look at this. We have Miss Chalice, 3,680 yen. Good old Cuphead. That's an awesome game. But guys, this was the Hard Off and Furuichi in Mie in Ueno, Koga, Japan. That's going to conclude my trip out to Mie, but definitely more to come, so stay tuned. We'll see you soon. Ciao.